there a beginner ink kit? Wow. I'd say there's just some, it's real basic. There's real basic tools. So for me, I like Pelican ink, but everybody's different. So I like Pelican ink, and the reason I like Pelican is because it's the least fussy ink out there. So right from the bottle, it usually works really well. So there's no mixing. Sometimes, like ink, you have to open the top and kind of let it breathe for a night. So like the water can kind of evaporate out of it and it thickens up the ink. But with the Pelican, I don't have to do that. Like right out of the bottle, it works pretty well. Like right now, some of the problem I could be having with the bleeding is that the ink might be too wet. Because if the ink is too wet, it will also bleed because there's just too much, I mean, water and paper don't really mix. So the drier you can put down the ink, the better. So this Bristol board does take a lot, but it will bleed at some point. So yeah, like I use the Hunt 102. That's what this pen that I'm using right now is, and it's also like similar to the ink. So when I ink, I don't want to think too much. I don't want something fussy. I don't want something that's like high maintenance. I just want the tool to do the job. So there might be a better tool to get the line that I'm looking for, but I don't want to change my nibs all the time or pick up another tool or mix my inks or do all that kind of fussy stuff. There's some inkers that will do that, and I've tried it in the past, but I don't like it. It's too much. Like I said, I just don't want something that's that high maintenance or fussy. I want to just be able to, put a nib in a holder and then use it, dip it in the ink, and then go with it. So that's my thing. Like I said, there's a lot of different inkers out there. They use different tools to get different results. So it really is like, as far as a beginner thing, I'd say just go with tools that, try a lot of different tools, see what feels best to you, like comfortable, what gets the line that you want. That's the main thing, is get the look that you really want. And then just keep practicing with it and get it down. And so like I use the Hunt 102s. That's this tip here, and the holders are kind of BSy. This thing right here, this lip, is kind of problematic because it catches right where your finger is. So what I do is I take a file and I file it down. There's still a little bit of a lip, but I file it down so it's not as sharp, because I don't know, I guess they expect you to put your hand right at the front of it, but my finger goes right where this line is. So it's kind of a bullshit design. They really should take that lip out of there. They should make it smooth, because everybody's hand's different size. So I always thought like these Hunts, I don't think they really care. They're just kind of banging these things out, because also the tips are they're not all the same, so there's not quality control. So each Hunt tip will act differently. It will perform in a different way. So that's another thing about inking. So if you think it's you, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's actually the tool. So just remember that, when you're inking out there. And so we got Pelican, we got the Hunt, and then just make sure that when you ink, if you can control the paper stock, like if you're doing blue lines or whatever, make sure it's a really good Bristol board. Make sure it's a good quality Bristol board. Unlike what I did today, you might want to test it out before you start, and see if it bleeds. So print out a board and then see how it works. And if it bleeds, then you might want to take that paper back and then try something different, because sometimes it's the paper. It's not always environment. It's not always, the ink. It can be a lot of different things. But, excuse me, one of the things I do like about inking is that those variations are what keeps it interesting, because sometimes those weather conditions or the paper or those limitations can actually keep things interesting for you. And also those limitations can turn into creative opportunities. It would be hard for me to explain what that means, but like if you ever went to school, like some of the teachers go, oh, it's a happy accident, like something that just is unexpected. You didn't expect it to happen. You didn't try to make it happen. It just kind of happened. It seems like a mistake, but if you step back, it actually looks pretty cool. So those things, that type of idea can happen, with those conditions, not, so I think, like when you ink, you kind of gotta learn to go with the situation. Like you kind of gotta go with the flow, like whatever the environment gives you, whatever the paper gives you, whatever the tools will give you. And then where the skill comes in is that, the more you do, the more you can kind of figure out when this problem happens, how to deal with it. When another scenario happens, how to deal with it. Like one of the things is when your paper's bleeding, like it is right now, don't do what I'm doing right now. Don't go over the line too many times, because you can see I already there's too much ink on it. Like I was saying, it's too wet. So what happens is it just starts getting crusty. The paper starts falling apart. So you don't want to put too much down, and you don't want to go over it too many times, because the paper will disintegrate. And the next advice is don't be heavy-handed. Don't push down too much on the nib. Like be very light with it, because then it'll bleed less.